Today we're installing the secondary heat exchanger from VRP. We already got the front bumper removed. Now it's time to remove this piece and mount the heat exchanger. Alright, so we got it mounted now. This is how it's turning out. The horn is going to have to be relocated. It doesn't fit, so I'm going to have to find a spot for that. Alright guys, so it's been a few days since I mounted the secondary heat exchanger, and now I have the hoses routed. But I pretty much have no idea if I did it right, and all the videos I've seen, they have a different setup, like split cooling or, you know, a whole different setup for the cooling system. And pretty much the hose that was here in the top part of the primary heat exchanger, the only thing I did was I got on the hose extension and pulled it up here, and it pretty much goes through the secondary heat exchanger, and then you put another hose here. That hose routes all the way to the bottom. I don't know, you can see it, and it's right here, and it goes back where the hose on the top part of the primary heat exchanger was. And so what I've noticed is my cooling system is pretty much stock, and it's kind of hard to tell, but there is a T, a little bit hard to tell, a T up there that pretty much from the top, it connects to the radiator. And so this, if some of you people don't know, this cooling system for the M13K, they share the same cooling, like the engine and the supercharger. And so my cooling is pretty much stock, and so all I did was just where this hose was mounted before, I put up to the secondary heat exchanger all the way back to the primary heat exchanger. So I'm not 100% sure if that's the correct way, but this is the only way I was, you know, I could see it being done. So let me know in the comments if is this the right setup with the stock setup, and yeah, let me know. Also, the secondary heat exchanger is from VRP, and there was another company that made another secondary heat exchanger from Souvenir, and I couldn't find it anywhere, so I believe they were discontinued. But pretty much it came a little bit thicker, and supposedly it was a little bit better than the VRP one. But yeah, I couldn't find that Souvenir secondary heat exchanger, so I just went with the VRP one. So the E55 and the CLS need to have the cooling blade, which is from right here. So you connect a hose, and it goes back to the cooling reservoir, and pretty much you have to activate the pump. But I don't have a scanner to do that, and so I called my buddy who has a scanner, and pretty much we were able to tell that the coolant pump wasn't activating. And so now I ordered a new pump, and I'm going to replace it right now in order for me to turn on the coolant pump to bleed the system, so that way there's no air bubbles trapped in the cooling system, which is very important for these cars. So to remove the coolant pump is pretty straightforward. I'm going to disconnect these hoses from the top, remove this nut that was holding it right here on this bracket, put it right there, and disconnect two connections here in the back and drop down the pump to replace the new one. And then there's going to be a bracket holding the pump, and that is going to be replaced into the new pump. Looks like I never had the updated pump, so this is the new part number for the updated Bosch 010 pump, and mine was still the older one. So my car has 196,000 miles, and so looks like my supercharger was not even kicking in apparently, so now it's time to update it. New pump has been installed. Now it's time to bleed the cooling system, make sure there's no air bubbles trapped in the cooling system. The cooling is bleeding blood now. big shout out and thanks to AMG doctor for coming through and bleeding the coolant for me. He had the scanner that was needed to activate the pump. And now we have the updated 010 Bosch coolant pump with the secondary heat exchanger. So far, this is how my setup's going. Thank you guys for watching this video.